Greetings from New York City. I'm Phil and we're running the bridges. This is a video series where we visit all the bridges in New York City that you can run across. The big, the small, the old, the new, the world famous icons, and the ones you've never even heard of. And today we are going on an expedition in search of the mysterious and elusive Muskrat Cove Footbridge. Now this is a bridge that has hardly been seen by human eyes. It's seldom seen by human eyes. And our journey begins here in the Bronx. We are at the Woodlawn Metro North train station. This is just off Webster Avenue, just north of 233rd Street. Now, if you remember my video from the East 233rd Street Bridge, that's it right behind me, East 233rd Street. And that's Webster Avenue. It's one of the major north-south thoroughfares in the Bronx. And you can see the road behind me. There is a on-ramp and an off-ramp for the Bronx River Parkway. And where we are in relation, you see this pathway here, and see the park sign that says Muskrat Cove. So that's where we are going to go. And we have about a little over a half a mile journey from here. This is the only way we can see. This footbridge, and let's walk and talk. And we have a lot to talk about with this bridge. Now, I'm not even sure. No one knows really who put this bridge here or what its function is. Was it aliens? I don't know. But we are about to find out. Now, I know you might be saying to yourself, but Phil, what are you talking about mystery? You have all the answers. And my reply to you would be, if I were there with you when you said that thing to yourself, I do not have all the answers. Like the song says, I'm just a singer in a rock and roll band. But I'll tell you what I know, and I'll show you what I can. And just to orient yourself a little bit here, we are basically heading north. Of course, it's not exactly north, but there are 5 parallel north-south elements at play here. Webster Avenue, which I showed you before, is just a regular street for cars. One of the main north-south thoroughfares in the Bronx. The Metro North train stations, Metro North tracks, which I just showed you for trains. The Bronx River Parkway for cars. The path that we're on for walkers, runners, bicyclers, and of course the Bronx River itself for fishes. And so we're just going to take a little jog. Now we have to get into a little bit of the history of the Bronx in order to understand why this bridge is here. And so now we are just coming into view of the Bronx River.
Shout out to this guy right here, man.
All right. So we are running alongside the Bronx River right now. And this, I will give you a little spoiler alert. This pathway will come to a dead end. It's a marked pathway. It has signage on it, but it will come to a dead end. So very few people venture very far up on this pathway. We just saw a group of people back there. So there are people, possibly fishers, but the river actually looks pretty nice right here. And anyway, so a little bit about the history of the Bronx, which comes into play here. Now, when the Europeans came and divided up all this land into counties, what is now the Bronx was originally part of Westchester County. And Westchester County, of course, is still there. It's the closest northern suburb of New York City, with towns like Yonkers, Mount Vernon, Pelham Manor. And but as New York was developing as a city, of course, New York City was just Manhattan, and it developed north. But eventually, over time, particularly over the course of the 1800s, New York City annexed some of these towns in Westchester County, which is now the Bronx. And so little by little, and here we are going under a bridge. This carries the Bronx River Parkway above us. So now the Bronx River Parkway it was on the east of us, now it's going to be on the west of us. But this is a bridge we will not be covering in the series because you cannot walk or run across it. Anyway, so New York City annexed all these towns of Westchester County, which would become the Bronx. But by 1895, when consolidation was imminent with the other boroughs, and the boundary between the Bronx and Westchester County was being finalized. And it was decided, and this is still, a lot of it was still rural farmland. There are lots of empty spaces here. But it was determined that the boundary between Bronx and Westchester County would be a straight line between a predetermined point on the Hudson River, where it is now, and a straight line across to a particular point in Long Island Sound, between two islands. And it was just going to be a straight line. And there's a couple of exceptions, though. One, they added a little piece of land over to the east by the Hutchinson River, which doesn't concern us here. But the village of Wakefield decided they wanted to be a part of it. New York, New York. So that's why if you look at a map of the Bronx and you see the boundary line, it looks like a straight line with a little bump. That little bump is the village of Wakefield. And that is where we are about to enter. And now, when you look at the map close up, now, and I will say the location of this bump, where Wakefield is where Yonkers meets Mount Vernon. Yonkers to the west, Mount Vernon to the east, and to the north of this bump. And so the boundaries on the north and east, the boundary with Mount Vernon was determined by however they determined that. And I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy sometimes. And the boundary to the west was going to be the Bronx River. Aha. Now, before we continue with that story, we are about to cross underneath the Nereid Avenue Bridge. All right, so this is a bridge we will cover later. But this is important because Nereid Avenue at this point marks the boundary between Yonkers and the Bronx. So from this point on, Yonkers will be to our left, to my left, to the west. And we are still supposedly in New York. But now here's the kicker. The boundary was set to be the Bronx River. And anything west of the Bronx River would be Yonkers. Anything east of Bronx River would be New York City, would be the Bronx. But then along came the Bronx River Parkway, built in the 1920s. And here's, of course, the Bronx River Parkway right there. Now, when they built the Bronx River Parkway, they decided to straighten the Bronx River so that you could have a straight line. Because before that, the Bronx River did all these wiggly, twisty things. So that's why, if you look at a detailed map of the border of New York City and Yonkers at this point, the border does all these weird things. Because when they straightened the river, they didn't change the border at all. So we supposedly, potentially, will actually be going in and out of Bronx and Yonkers multiple times as I'm talking to you, even though we're just on the same park pathway. And so that is where the mystery comes in. When are we in Yonkers and when are we in the Bronx? And I can even show you, we're coming up to the sign there, County of Westchester, which is a sign for the Bronx River Parkway. Now, I don't necessarily mean that This location of this exact sign is the county line. But like I said, as you go along this path, we're probably going back and forth multiple times between Yonkers and the Bronx. So here is why this is an unusual case. This bridge, now many of the bridges that I cover will have one end in New York City and another end, and the other end in another city or even in another state, which is fine. It's still a New York City bridge. It is entirely possible that this bridge is entirely within the border of Yonkers. But I'm still considering it a New York City bridge, A, because the only way you can get to it is from where I just showed you, 233rd Street in the Bronx. And also, if you consider that the Bronx River was originally the border between the Bronx and Yonkers, if you say, oh, in spirit, it's still the border. So you could say, in spirit, one end is in the Bronx and one end is in Yonkers. I don't know for sure. Like I said, it's a mystery. And we'll also get to a little mystery because we are about to come upon it right now. Like I said, this pathway just dead ends. And you don't see a lot of people here. All right. So, we are approaching the bridge. And let's see if we can get a look at it. All right. The elusive Muskrat Cove Footbridge. Now, we will go across. And you can see the pathway just comes to an end. No more pathway, but it goes across the bridge. Nice little bridge across the Bronx River here. Got some goosies in the water. And now on this end, there's nothing. It just ends. Now, it looks like you might be able to possibly bushwhack your way through there. It looks like some people do. But looking on a map, it doesn't go anywhere really. And so that's the end of the journey. So now why is this bridge here? I do not know. But supposedly, legend has it, there is an inscription, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it or not. Well, supposedly somewhere there's an inscription that says this bridge was built in 1952. Now, if that's the case, there are places in New York where pathway just kind of dead ends or stairways are blocked off, whatever, and it's usually because later on there was an expressway built through there and access was closed off. But by 1952, all this infrastructure would have already been in place. So now I did read one thing: they intended to have a path on the east side of the river that went back to Woodlawn. I'm not really sure, but that's the mystery, and that is the story of the Muskrat Cove Footbridge. So now you've been here. Now you've seen it, and now you can tell your children all about that. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for indulging me on this expedition. And let's see if I can make it back out of here alive. All right, but hope to see you out here running sometime, and we'll see where the wind takes us for next week. All right, take care.